today my presentation is called Being the Artist of Your Own Self-Portrait. Now, who woke up this morning and looked in the mirror before they ventured out into the world? Anybody do that? Who's ever, by show of hands, who's ever woken up and said, I need to look better than usual today because I have a presentation? Anybody? Two? Has anybody woken up and said, I need to look better today because I'm going to see that cute guy girl in my first class? Really? No?
Oh, come on.
Well, shame today. Has anybody woken up and say, I have a presentation in my first class where I'm going to see that cute guy girl? None of you. But after that, sweatpants. Anybody? Yes. See, I knew that. Has anybody woken up and say, I should probably look better today, but sweatpants? There we go. Okay. We got everybody on board. One of my favorite things to do, obviously, is put on a suit. I feel comfortable and confident in the suit. I feel like it represents the best version of me, and that's why I do. And today I want to talk to you about image. I want to tell you what it is, why it's important, and how to make sure that you're treating it the right way in your daily life. So image is three things. The first thing is how we look. It's the most superficial component, but it leads into everything else about image. It's how we look, it's what we're wearing, and some people consider image to just stop here, but it's more than that. It's also how we carry ourselves. We all watch a TED Talk about how positioning yourself and how your body language can tell a lot about who you are or what you're about. And that's a big part of image, a big representation of who we are. So that's the second component. And the third is how we interact. So once you break down those first two barriers, what somebody looks like and how they're carrying themselves, you actually get to know the person, who they are, how they interact, how they shake your hand, what the first thing they say to you is. So this is the third component of image. So image is three things. It's how we look, how we carry ourselves, and how we interact. Now, I want you all to think of somebody you know really, really well. Maybe it's your mom, or your dad, or your brother, or sister, best friend, whatever. And everybody just kind of pick one. Everybody got one? Okay, cool. Now, picture a place where you would not expect to see that person. Maybe if it's your mom, maybe it's the Naples down there across the way, maybe it's Einstein's, it doesn't matter. Now, imagine you're walking through this place and you see somebody that's wearing the jacket that you bought them last Christmas. And you think, well, it doesn't really make sense for them to be here. We're in a mall. Why would my mom be? She's not cool. She's in the mall. So you get a little bit closer, and maybe she's like standing the way that your mom always stands with your dad or whatever. And you get a little bit closer and you see them doing their mannerisms and their gestures. And you think, yeah, actually that could be that person. You get a little bit closer, maybe you hear them laugh, maybe you hear the same joke that they always tell a new person. And you're like, yeah, of course, that's that person. Because you can identify somebody you know really well based on these three things: how they look, what they're wearing, how they carry themselves, how they act, how they stand, and how they interact. These three things represent the people that we know best, the people that we love. And oftentimes, it's a representation or reflection of why we love them or why we love them so much. Now, I want to focus today on the first component of these, and that's how we look. Now, we all know that image affects how other people perceive you. That's why we get dressed up when we have a presentation or when we're going on a first date, even though none of you dress up to impress people that you can see in class. It's fine. We know this about ourselves, and that's why the fashion industry is so big. That's why the makeup industry is so big. It's because people care about how they look, because they think that other people care about how they look. But today, I want you to restructure that, and we'll get into that. But image affects how other people perceive you. That's why doctors walk into your exam room wearing a white lab coat, even though they're not going to do anything that's going to soil their clothes when they're giving you a physical exam. It's why lawyers and bankers wear expensive suits when they walk into your house to help your parents do their mortgage or do their taxes or something like that, even though they'd much rather be doing math in sweatpants. And it's why guys at the gym wear tank tops, even though they could do their workout in literally anything. It's because when we look like we know what we're doing, people think we know what we're doing. When we look like we're authoritative, people think we are. People value our opinion, people respect us, and they give us the time of day. It shapes how people see us. Now, this is Bradley Martin, by the way. He's huge. The picture doesn't really do him justice. This little guy here is the amygdala. And this is a really tiny part of your brain, and so you might think, why is it so important if it's so tiny? But it's important because since it's so tiny, creatures with small brains have this component in it. So ever since we've been evolving, since we've been a little bit bigger than this piece of the brain, we've had it. And that's important because this handles instinctual decisions, fight or flight decisions. And this little guy is active when we're making fight or flight decisions. So a truck is coming at you on the road, you have to dodge which way it's going, this little guy's firing. And a 2011 study found that this little guy is highly active when we're evaluating someone's attractiveness and trustworthiness. Now, you might think, well, I think about what I like in a guy or what I like in a girl and what I think is attractive, or I need to base my decision on whether or not someone's trustworthy based on other things, not just how I see them. But it makes sense from an instinctual point of view, because when you meet someone for the first time, instinctually you're thinking, not consciously, instinctually, is this person a good mate? Can I have this person around me for the rest of my life? Can I have this person around me in social circles to make sure that I don't die? Obviously, we don't think that way anymore because that's not how people interact in a modern society. But what it goes to show is that in the first few seconds of meeting somebody, you're evaluating without even knowing. And within the first few seconds of meeting someone, they're doing the same for you. Now, we all know that the image is important and that within the first few seconds, image is really important. That's why in job interviews and first dates and presentations, we all want to look good. It's because our image is important to other people. But we often forget that other people aren't the whole story. Your image should be important to you because you're the person that matters. Now, let's take a step back and think about the doctors and lawyers and gym bros that I mentioned earlier. Why does a doctor wear a white lab coat? What makes a white lab coat so special? It's because we associate it with doctors, and when a doctor walks into the room, they want you to think that they know what they're talking about. But it's more than just that. When a doctor looks in the mirror in the morning, when they put on that white lab coat and they're holding their stethoscope and they feel all high and mighty, they don't see the med student that spent all their hours in the library in sweatpants, stained t-shirts, and messy hair. They see the doctor that made it. They see the version of themselves that they created. They see the version of themselves that they want to be. Same thing with lawyers and bankers and people wearing expensive clothing. It's because they don't see the guys and the girls who spent all their time in the law library, same thing, sweatpants, soiled shirts, and messy hair. They see the person that made it, the person they created, the version of themselves that they want to be. Why do guys wear tank tops in the gym? It's because they want to see the version of themselves they created. They no longer see the scrawny kid that they used to be. They see the huge guy that they are now, or just the version of themselves that they want to be. So we see in all these cases that what we wear and how we present ourselves isn't so much about other people. It's about bringing ourselves to a level or a position that we feel we need to be in. Maybe it's a position of expertise or knowledge, or maybe just belonging. How we present ourselves to ourselves helps us paint our own self-portrait. Now, image is three things. It's how we look, how we carry ourselves, and how we interact. Keep that in mind when I say this. You wouldn't expect to see your mom and dad walking in the hill section on a Saturday night, just like you wouldn't expect to see your best friend from home and Einstein's downstairs. It just wouldn't make sense. It also wouldn't make sense to see yourself walking 50 feet ahead of you as you walk to your next class. Have you ever been walking somewhere and see maybe a guy wearing the same backpack and Yankee hat that you have, and you're like, wait, wow, is that me? Or girls, if someone's wearing the same Love Your Melon hat and the same color hair is like pouring out of you, oh, that looks like me. And then you see them and you're like, oh, that's right, I'm me, and I'm gonna fill a test in a second. That happens to me a lot. The point is this. Would you recognize yourself if you saw yourself ahead of you? Or in other words, would you recognize your own image? How well do you know your own image? Image is three things. It's how we look, how we carry ourselves, and how we interact. So picture yourself. What are you wearing? What do you look like? How are you standing? What are you doing? Who are you with? And if you were to say hi, what would you say? Is your handshake firm or is it a dead fish? Do you smile or do you kind of shy away from something? Our image is important to other people, but our image is far more important to ourselves. And we often forget to think about ourselves. Nico Everett is a woman who led a youth group, and she gives a great TED Talk about meeting yourself. And in it, she talks about how people have a really tough time thinking about things or listing things that they like about themselves. They can usually only get one or two in, and then it's whatever. It's because people often don't look at themselves. They don't take a step back and look at themselves like other people look at them, or how they look at other people. And that's the important part. So when you think about image, don't think about other people. Don't think about seeing yourself through the lens of your crush or your friend group so that they accept you, or your employer so that they hire you, or your teacher so that they give you a good grade on a presentation. Think about it through your own lens. Look at yourself and think about the person that you want to be, the person that you want to create. This is me back in middle school. Just why? I mean, what's the show? Why are they so like? Oh man, I wore aviator sunglasses and Nike shoes and all this stuff because I thought it made me look cool. Did it? Not really. This is me in my sophomore year of high school. Can't tell, but that's a Nike hat. And I never wore hats in middle school. In high school, I just didn't. This wasn't me, but I thought this is the version of me that people wanted to see. And so, as I grew and as I got a job in the warehouse and good suits, I figured out that I felt confident being like this. I felt confident showing people the best version of myself, and that's why you see your pictures. It's not me leaning back in my living room with the pedal still going in the background, trying to look cool. It's just me feeling confident in who I am. Now, image is three things. It's how we look, how we carry ourselves, and how we interact. And when you think about image, think about your self-portrait. Don't take selfies, paint self-portraits. Treat how you see yourself like a poet treats his pieces, like an artist treats their paintings, or like a composer treats their songs. A representation of you. This is a famous artist. His name is Gustave Courbet, and this is El Desesperado. Desperado, I think Spanish speakers. It means the desperate man. This is a self-portrait, and he sees himself as a desperate person. This is Van Gogh. He sees himself as the artist without a beard. He sees himself as an artist, yeah, but this picture just says he's a dude without a beard. This is Leonardo da Vinci. He didn't see himself as a brilliant inventor, he saw himself as an old dude. Your image should be important to you. Don't see yourself as just a desperate guy trying to get through class, or someone who can't figure out a physics problem. Don't think of yourself as just a dude without a beard or an old person. Think about the version of yourself that you want to be, because that's important. And when you think about yourself like that, and when you see yourself like that, and when you paint your own self-image like that, everything else falls into place. Because when you interact with the version of yourself that you want to be, other people get to do that too. When you're not honest with yourself, when you don't show yourself the real,